One chance to make it right. Sherleaf is a raw and compelling novel about a broken man, a desperate escape, and an unexpected path to redemption. After years of debauchery, Bob Chambers faces the ultimate test, reconnecting with his daughter while evading a relentless police chase. But with a ghostly guide shadowing his steps, Bob's journey isn't just physical. It's a battle for his soul. This is a story of flawed choices, unconditional love, and the power of second chances. Can Bob rewrite his story, or is it too late? Chapter 10. A night in Kuiti. The sun dipped below the hills as Bob and Mary rolled into Kuiti, the town bathed in the dim orange glow of dusk. The petrol gauge on the dashboard had been blinking red for the past 20 kilometers, and Bob knew they wouldn't make it much farther. Mary sighed, glancing at the fuel light. So, what's the plan? Where are we going to sleep tonight? Bob exhaled against the stiffness in his ribs. We ditch this car and find somewhere to lay low for the night. And by find somewhere you mean break into, don't you? Mary deadpanned. Bob replied. You catch on quick, kid. He turned down a quiet side street, easing the sedan into a dark, empty lot behind a row of closed shops. They stepped out, Bob scanning the area while Mary rummaged around the back seat. She found some clothes in a backpack, which she slung over her shoulder. All right, first things first. Ditch the car. Bob checked the car boot for anything that would come in handy. He found a torch, a blanket, and a chili bin with 4 beer cans. He stared at the beer cans before returning the lid to the bin. I don't need that poison anymore. He closed the car boot. Now we find somewhere to sleep. Mary shivered in the evening air. We need a warm bed, preferably one that isn't inside a police cell. Bob gestured toward a rundown motel at the end of the street. Its neon sign flickered, advertising vacancy in sputtering red letters. The parking lot was mostly empty, save for a couple of cars outside the manager's office. That's our spot, Bob said. They crept toward the back of the motel, avoiding the main entrance. Bob tested a few doors along the row of rooms, finally finding one with a faulty lock. With a swift shove of his shoulder, the door clicked open. Welcome to the finest accommodations crime can buy, he whispered, ushering Mary inside. The room was old but clean, with 2 stiff beds, a worn-out armchair, and the faint smell of mildew clinging to the curtains. The room was dark. Mary flopped onto one of the beds with a dramatic sigh. Luxury, even if we had to break into the room. Bob locked the door behind them and pulled the curtains shut. Shush. Keep your voice low. It's a roof over our heads for a good cause. Getting you to your mom's place. Mary sat up, watching as he checked the bathroom and peered out the window. You always this paranoid? Bob smirked. Only when I'm on the run. She nodded, but didn't push. Instead, she dug into her bag and pulled out a half-eaten bag of chips. Dinner? Bob grabbed the bag and popped a chip into his mouth. Not exactly steak and eggs, but it'll do. They ate in companionable silence for a few moments before Mary broke it. So, tomorrow? Bob wiped his hands on his jeans. We need a new ride. Something with a full tank. We'll figure it out. Mary studied him. And after that? We just keep driving? Bob leaned back against the headboard, rubbing his temples. Yeah, kid. We just keep driving to Auckland. An unexpected message. The sound of running water filled the motel room as Mary showered, steam creeping out from under the bathroom door. Bob sat on the edge of the bed, rubbing his hands together, trying to focus. The weight of the journey ahead pressed on him, the choices he had made threatening to catch up. Bob reached for the remote. The old motel television flickered to life, static humming before an image came into focus. Bob's stomach twisted as he recognized Kate on the screen, sitting stiffly in a news studio, her face pale and drawn. Bob, if you're watching this, she said, her voice wavering, please, bring Mary home. Don't hurt her. I know things have been hard, but this isn't the way. Give yourself up to the police and return Mary safely. Please. Bob swallowed hard. He hadn't thought about how this looked to her, to the world. The report shifted back to the news reporter covering the story. Suddenly, the screen flickered, the signal warping into waves of static. The image of the reporter dissolved, and in its place, Sherleaf appeared, his figure materializing where the reporter had been. He had a flowing white beard and wore a crisp white shirt beneath a billowing white cloak that shimmered with an ethereal glow. His piercing gaze locked onto Bob, his presence both commanding and strangely comforting. "You're almost there, Bob," Sherleaf said, his voice calm yet weighted with meaning. "One more day. One more chance to make this right." Bob exhaled shakily. "You saw that, right? She thinks I kidnapped Mary, that I'm some kind of monster." Sherleaf tilted his head slightly. "She's afraid, and fear clouds the truth. But what about you? What do you believe?" Bob looked away. "I don't know. I just know I have to get to Auckland," Sherleaf nodded. "On this journey, you and Mary have changed. You are not the same man who ill-treated your family in Wellington. She is not the same girl who resented you. The road has tested you both, and you are beginning to understand each other." Bob swallowed. "I don't know if I deserve a second chance." Sherleaf's expression softened. "Deserving or not, it is yours to take. The bond with your daughter is mending, but you must hold on to it. Tomorrow is your last day, Bob. Make it count." The television flickered again, and Sherleaf vanished into static. The news anchor returned, unaware that anything had changed. Bob ran a hand down his face, his breath shaky. He turned toward the bathroom, hearing the water shut off. Mary stepped out moments later, dressed, with a towel wrapped around her shoulders. She glanced at the television, now showing a dull commercial. "Anything interesting?" Bob forced a smile. "Just the usual." But inside, something had shifted. One more day. One last chance to set things right. Morning of the last day. Bob woke with a start, the first rays of sunlight creeping through the cheap curtains. It took him a second to remember where they were. He sat up, his ribs slowly mending, the bruising fading. He glanced at Mary. She was still asleep, curled up under the thin motel blanket, her face relaxed for once. For a moment, Bob allowed himself to believe they were just two regular travelers, not fugitives running from the past. Then, reality hit. They had to move. He nudged Mary's shoulder. "Time to go," she groaned. 5 more minutes. Bob waved his arm toward the door. 5 more minutes and we might wake up to the owner knocking on the door. That got her moving. She sat up, rubbing her eyes. "Fine, what's the plan?" Bob grabbed his jacket. "First, we get a new car, and we make sure it's got petrol to get us to Auckland." The motel parking lot was still quiet. When Bob and Mary slipped out just after dawn, the morning air crisp with the scent of damp asphalt. They needed to move fast. Bob's eyes scanned the lot, looking for their next ride. Then he spotted it. A black SUV parked near the edge of the lot, sleek and well-maintained. The condensation on the windows told him it hadn't been driven yet this morning. He nudged Mary. "That one," she frowned. "How do you know it has petrol?" Bob smirked. "People with cars like that don't let them run on empty." He tested the driver's side door. Unlocked. Slipping inside, he checked under the sun visor. Bingo. The keys dropped into his palm. "Get in," he whispered, and Mary hurried to the passenger seat. As Bob turned the ignition, the dashboard flickered to life. Full tank. He exhaled in relief. Then he opened the glove box, searching for anything useful. Mary's eyes widened as he pulled out a leather wallet. Bob flipped it open. $200 in cash. He grinned. Breakfast is on the agenda. They pulled onto the main road, and on the outskirts of the town, they spotted a roadside diner with a neon sign that buzzed faintly in the early light. Bob parked the car out of sight of the main road. The scent of coffee and bacon filled the air as they stepped inside. It was the kind of place where truckers refueled and old regulars sat nursing cups of coffee for hours. Bob slid into a booth while Mary scanned the menu. "I am starved. Potato crisps don't make much of a meal. Mom will be pleased that you are paying for my breakfast." Bob looked at her. "Technically, someone else is paying for it." She let out a muffled laugh. "Yeah, I guess so, Dad. I guess Mom won't be pleased that you are breaking the law to get me to her." Bob observed his daughter laugh. Compared to her previous situation in the Johnsonville flat, this was significantly different. He had not heard her laugh there, and he had not given her a reason to. Bob felt a pang of remorse. A waitress appeared, notepad in hand. "What can I get you to?" Bob ordered eggs and bacon, Mary opting for pancakes. As the waitress went to fulfill the order, Mary glanced out the window, watching the sun creep over the hills. "So, Auckland by tonight?" she asked. Bob nodded. "If all goes well," Mary exhaled. "I can't wait to see Mum again." "I cannot believe she left me with that woman," Bob concurred. "Agreed. Let's eat first. And then we will hit the road before the cops are alerted and set up a roadblock." A few minutes later, with full stomachs and a stolen car, they hit the road again. The last day of their journey had begun. The back road. Bob's eyes scanned the road as they rolled north toward the sleepy town of Atorahanga. The black SUV purred smoothly beneath his grip as he reflected on the spirit guide's words the evening before. It was no use mentioning Sherleaf's appearance on the television. She already thought he might be a little crazy. So he said nothing. Mary sat beside him, one knee tucked up against her chest, staring out the window at the rolling green pastures and clusters of trees lining the road. The well-worn map lay in her lap. "This country's weird," Mary said, breaking the comfortable silence as she stared out the window. "It's like spooky, too empty. Where is everybody?" Bob nodded. "Yeah, not much traffic, that's for sure." "Just as well for us," Mary surmised. "It's nothing like Wellington. Everything there is all packed together. Buildings, people, cars. Here, it's just sheep, cows, and hills." Bob nodded. "Yeah, feels like we're on a different planet. Never thought I'd say this, but I kinda like it. I think this trip has done the world of good for me. For us both." Mary turned to him, eyebrows raised. "You? Liking something that isn't a dingy bar or a horse race?" "Shocking." Bob rolled his eyes. All right. No need to remind me." "I know, I was a nightmare." Mary smiled and turned back to stare out the window at the rolling countryside. "It's nice, feels different, like we can disappear into it." Bob turned to her with a hopeful smile. "Okay, maybe we can come back this way as a family and find a house here." Mary hesitated. "I don't know. Just saying, it doesn't feel so bad out here. Like, maybe we could just chill out here," Bob exhaled. "Yeah, maybe." The town of Atorahanga wasn't far off in the distance. Bob felt a sense of ease as they pulled into a quiet roadside dairy on the outskirts. It was small and sleepy, the kind of place where no one asked too many questions. "Stay in the car," Bob instructed as he stepped out. "I won't be long." Mary looked up. "Not like I'm going anywhere." Inside, Bob grabbed a couple of pies from the warmer and 2 bottles of water, keeping his head down as he paid in cash. The attendant barely looked at him, which was exactly how Bob liked it. When he returned to the car, Mary had the glove box open, flipping through a stack of old receipts. "You ever wonder who owned this car?" Bob raised an eyebrow. "Not particularly." Mary held up a receipt. "The guy who owned it bought gas every Monday at the same station. Routine, you know? It makes you think about how normal people live." Bob smirked. "Yeah? And what's that make us?" Mary shrugged, tossing the paper back inside. "Something else, I guess. Bypassing Hamilton." Rather than heading into the city, Bob took the back road, winding around Hamilton, the biggest city in the region, and cutting toward the North Waikato town of Huntley. The road was quieter, dipping through valleys and alongside farms, their fences stretching endlessly into the distance. "Think anyone's noticed the cars missing yet?" Mary asked. Bob shrugged. "Maybe, maybe not. It doesn't matter unless they track us down." Mary tapped her fingers against the dashboard. "I used to think being alone with you was a nightmare. But now, it's not so bad." Bob shot her a sidelong glance. "High praise coming from you," she smiled. "Don't get smug. Just saying, I get why you're doing this, even if it's completely insane." Bob nodded, but inside, doubt still gnawed at him. He wanted to believe he was doing the right thing, but what if he was just making it worse? As Huntley loomed in the distance, Bob knew their journey was coming to a head. One more stretch of road. One more chance to set things right. But ahead, they would have to join the motorway to Auckland, and that meant exposure. Hi. Stay updated on J. Pilgrim's releases by following him on this channel. Join a community of fiction lovers who are inspired, entertained, and transformed by the works of J. Pilgrim. Like, subscribe, and share this series. See you in the next episode.